All right. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reich of Crime Talk, and after a brief hiatus, we are back. As some of you may know, I have been in a town on the western slope of Colorado doing a double homicide case for the last 3 weeks. It took most of my time, so I was pretty much unable to do Crime Talk. But that is over, and now this will be our focus to make sure that we do this. So first of all, I appreciate everyone tuning in. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Please like the video if you like what we're doing here. Additionally, today, if you have something, this super chat makes it so much easier so I can see your comments and your questions. So if you have a question, please do it that way. It really makes things a lot easier for me as well. Now, what I want to talk about today, first thing as we get started, is Chris Watts. I know I thought to myself, we're not going to do any more Chris Watts. Chris Watts' case has run its course. However, Chris Watts is the gift that just keeps on giving. All right? Chris Watts has been sentenced. He's moved out of state. He's at a facility out of Colorado. And the detectives from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, and the Frederick Police Department go up and interview him a couple of weeks ago. Now, this is very unusual, all right? 25 years, criminal defense work, when a case is done, detectives, everybody moves on. This case is very, very different because I've never seen anything like this. And when you listen to those interviews, it's almost like the police officers need as much closure as everyone else that's been involved in the case, whether it's Shanann's family, the public, you all out here in YouTube land who have followed this case, who've been engrossed with this particular case, because it's out of the ordinary. This Chris Watts guy, let's take a look at him. Normally, when people do something pretty violent like murder your wife and 2 young children, there's usually something in the background that lets you see it. If somebody's been in trouble continuously over their life, it kind of builds up. If they have violence in their history, you can see where it came from. But here, you have this Chris Watts who's, for lack of a better term, never been in trouble before, and then one day, wakes up and says, today's the day I'm going to, kill my wife. And then, I'm not really sure what I just did, or I know exactly what I just did. But now what do I do with my 2 young girls that have, are still in the house, are coming into the room and asking what's wrong with mom? It's unusual. And that's why I think so many people are just simply fascinated by this. Now, you throw in the other aspect of it where, Chris Watts is, dating, having an affair with whatever you want to call it with this Nicole Kessinger. And it seems pretty obvious from what we can see about this Chris Watts guy is that his wife, Shanann, was clearly the more dominant personality. He was the one that kind of took second fiddle to this. And, I said this kind of early on. Did he just kind of snap? Did he just have a bad day? I never thought it was that. Do I think he planned it out months in advance and said, this is how I'm going to kill her? No. I think, this is my personal opinion, and some of you all may or may not agree, but that's okay. Let's just keep it civil in the comments. But this guy was clearly unhappy in his relationship. He meets he meets Nicole Kessinger. They have a relationship. For lack of a better term, she is rocking his world. And all of a sudden, he needs to get rid of the wife. He doesn't want to be married anymore. But instead of simply going out and getting a divorce like 99.99999% of the world, what does he do? He thinks he should kill her. That's bizarre. So do I think that he had planned this in advance? I know a lot of people will say, he had made arrangements to go out to the well site and basically called off his employee. I've read those interviews. I've seen the reports. I personally don't necessarily read it like that. What I read it as is, hey, any chance you guys can go out there and be there first? We'll take care of some other things. I think it just personally I think it happened. Now, when Shanann gets home at 2 a.m., apparently they talk. Ultimately, they have sex, and ultimately then he comes back, after making breakfast, gets on top of her and strangles her, and doesn't fight in any way. And a lot of people are, I review the comments, and so many people out there are like, well, there's no defensive wounds, there's nothing. Why would she not fight? And I'm no expert on this, but I've handled strangulation cases, and I have seen it where people can pass out as little as 20 or 30 seconds from being strangled. And, I think the victims have kind of that moment of shock. And then it can take literally from, 2 to 5 minutes from the time that somebody is actually being strangled to actually cause death, okay? Clearly after deliberation in the legal sense, okay? You start something, you can stop it, you keep doing it, that's after deliberation. His killing his children, absolutely after deliberation, there's no doubt, okay? Could an argument been made it was a heat of passion thing? Yes, perhaps, but that's clearly not what happened. Now, let's talk about the officers. Why would they go up there? All right. The officer, one of the female officer, actually says at one point in that interview that they needed closure because it just kind of ended. I mean, the case literally just ended. And if anyone knows, criminal case, something like this, these type of cases take years, and no one ever, rarely ever takes a plea at the first date. So first of all, thanks, Yolanda. Appreciate the super chat there. Truly do. That's fabulous. Thank you. If you have a question, the super chats clearly help to highlight that, and we'll try to answer your question there. So what I'm saying is these matters never resolve that quickly, and so these officers needed closure as well. And frankly, they needed to find out what exactly happened. Now, drinking from the Crime Talk mug. The supply was out, but they have been replenished. So there's a link if you want one. Don't have to, but if you want one, you can get one, and it'll be, I think from the time you buy it, it's there in about 3 days. So they're there. They're great. I like it. And besides, get that little Crime Talk mug there. So. All right. So back to Chris Watts' interview. The police needed closure. These cases never end that quickly, all right? And I think the police had a real strong desire to find out what happened. Now, the question is, and I put this yesterday when I announced we were going live today on the community page on Facebook or on YouTube, was, do you believe some of what Chris said? Do you believe all of it or none of it? And that is really the issue, there as it relates to his statement. Do you think he's minimizing? Do you think that he is trying to make himself look better? I'm not sure how you can make yourself look much better after you've admitted to killing your wife and 2 children and your unborn child. So that's it. We're going to take a quick break here for a super chat. Kelly Wheat, in your opinion, is Patrick Frazee guilty, and do you think his mom was involved? Thank you. Patrick Frazee has managed to put himself in a situation where he's created a lot of bad facts. Now, he still has the presumption of innocence because he has obviously been charged, but has not been convicted. He has not been pled guilty to anything. But Mr. Frazee is going to have a tough road ahead for him, given the fact that his girlfriend is going to be testifying against him. Your other part of the question was, do I believe that his mother had something involvement with it? I don't know. there's been no indication thus far that she actually participated in the murder of Kelsey Barrett. But there's a crime called accessory. If you know a crime has been committed and you do something that will hinder or delay the apprehension, investigation, you can be charged as an accessory. Now, you have to know what took place. However, curiously enough, when the district attorneys called Mr. Frazie's mother at the preliminary hearing, she took the Fifth Amendment. So she has some exposure there for whatever reason. So at this point, we'll just have to wait and see. All right. So I appreciate that very much. Thanks for the super chat. Jumping back then to Christopher Watts. The question is, do you believe some part or all of his statements? Okay. He's obviously pled guilty to killing his wife. He's pled guilty to killing his children, and he has pled guilty to killing his unborn child. I'm not sure how that can make you feel any better, but what the police were looking for, I think, in this particular case, they were trying to figure out what happened exactly. Now, do you have to take his word for it? I guess you have to. You have to compare it to what the evidence actually is. And the evidence that's been produced, the police didn't have that much information. Do I think this guy was a super genius whereby he would go out and, like I said, plan this thing that he was trying to be evasive with the cop? No, I think this guy, for whatever reason, just had enough. Like, I'm done. I'm moving on. And he kills her. Then he, unfortunately, kills his children as well. But the police ask him, like, did you throw her phone into the cushion? Why was her ring placed there? He says he takes their wedding ring off and he puts Shanann's wedding ring on the nightstand, throws her phone somewhere. They're curious about the movement in the house. Clearly, they had alarms, doors opening at various times, and they said there was a lot of movement going on in that house in the morning. They were asking about doors opening. Do I truly believe that they were also there to try to find out if someone else was involved? Absolutely. There is obviously suspicion. Chris Watts doesn't seem like a kind of guy that gets up and does a whole lot on his own. He seems like he's kind of have to be pushed or motivated in some way. So, we don't know. And understand, Nicole Kessinger has not been charged, and even if she were, she would have the presumption of innocence. But there's nothing at this point, nothing that would implicate her, that even to the point of probable cause where she could be charged. So people will have their suspicions, people will have their hunches, but until there's some actual evidence, nothing's going to happen. Now, are there things that certainly look suspicious? Yes. Are there inconsistencies in her statements to the police based upon what we know exists from her text messages and her emails? Yes, absolutely. Does that necessarily mean that you were involved? We may never know. We may never know. But clearly there are things that do not look good for Ms. Kessinger as it relates to her candidness with the police, her involvement, and whether she basically inspired somebody to go out and kill their wife and family. And like I said, I'm not throwing stones, but that's what can be reasonably inferred from the evidence that we have seen so far. There's nothing that's warranted a charge at this point. I frankly don't think there's ever going to be a charge unless either A, Chris Watts says there's something involved, B, Kessinger somehow makes an admission that she's involved, and to date there's been absolutely nothing of that, and I don't think that she is ever going to do that. So I got a super chat here from Moxie. Opinion, sexual dysfunction, too kind at this point. There's lots of issues there as it relates to Mr. Watts and his sexual issues. I don't even know where to begin. I think one of the most disturbing things is, Watts doesn't want to be with his wife, but yet he has sex with her, kind of like one last time, one last fling, and then he's got Kessinger on the side. I wonder how she feels about that, since she thought that she was the only one, so to speak, for him. And I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinion as it relates to taking his children out to the tank battery site. Now, he makes it sound like in his interview that he was somehow going to, maybe kill himself, and the police kind of suggest, were you going to harm yourself? And at that point, if you listen closely, and this is my perspective on it, that he tries to make it sound like he was going to do that. But you may also recall from the interview that he just did with the police is that he admitted that he did not think about ever saying Shanann hurt those children until the police were the ones that suggested it. All right. And what they were doing is it's called the Reid interrogation techniques. And what the police officers do is they first kind of make, hey, now here's the accusation. We think you had something to do with it. The facts just aren't adding up. What are you? You don't have no good excuse for this. And then they'll try to build this rapport with their interviewee and try to get them to basically make some sort of justification as to what they did. All right. Well, did you kill him, but it was in self-defense? Did you kill him because they harmed somebody else? They kind of give him this moral equivalency, like, well, it's okay to do this because of that. And what that really does is the police, they don't care. Guess what? Because you just have an admission that you killed them. So that's it. It doesn't really matter at that point. Now, the Reid interrogation technique has been around since the 50s. It was started by a guy that was a polygrapher. He trains not most, but a lot of police agencies around the country go to his courses. It's taught over and over again. The FBI uses it. But it's all about rapport building, making somebody feel comfortable that they're your friend, their ally, essentially there for you to try and get you to admit to something. And obviously it works. As you can see from the interviews that we've posted previously here with Chris Watts, they kind of softened him up. Hey, it's okay, Chris. Was there something that went on that we didn't know about that we could still do, to kind of help and rationalize it? So, those are the kinds of things that the police do to basically, for lack of a better term, get their guy. Now, when you all read the police reports in the Watts case, like I said, this is not a sophisticated guy. This is not a sophisticated criminal. This is not well thought out. It was poorly planned. And people may say, yes, he planned it the day before. He may have. He may have been the kind of guy that hopes, wow, Shanann's coming home from a trip. I hope her plane crashes. I hope the brakes on her car fail. And boy, wouldn't that just be easier. But for whatever reason, that day, he did it. And that's the thing I think the cops were really interested in when you listen to that interview is what the hell? What made him do it at that particular moment? Why then? And then the guy goes down, makes his, sandwich for lunch, for taking it to work, and then kind of goes about his way and kills his kids and then can act normal out there. And, is this a guy that, like I said, is just having a bad day and snaps? Or is this the kind of guy that he just is, a true sociopath, that this was kind of his first time, and had he got away with it, he would have kept going? Or who knows? Maybe there's something else out there in the past. The other thing I thought was interesting in his interview was the fact that he thought that he could have basically just, told his family anything and they would have believed it. And obviously they did early on. There were lots and lots of people who thought that Chris Watts was, for lack of a better term, the victim here, that he didn't kill his children, that perhaps Shanann did. And like I said, he's the one that says, I didn't even think of that till you guys mentioned it. And then I just kind of went with it. He also talks about Chris Watts talks about his conversations with his lawyers. And, at first they're like, hey, we're going to go with this. And about 2 weeks into it, he didn't want to go forward anymore. And once again, who knows? This is a guy that's clearly trying to make himself look better. So make himself look better in the eyes for everybody else. Made it sound like, he was the one that ended it all. He's the one that made the decision. In a way he did, because he's the one that decided to plead guilty. However, who knows? The attorneys may have listened to his story and said, man, this is bad. You're up for the death penalty. We need to do whatever we can. What can we do to make this go away? Obviously, it's his call, but he makes it sound like he was the very altruistic, I'm the one that's going to make everybody feel better. I don't want to cause any more pain, et cetera, et cetera. And that's interesting to me. The other thing I found interesting is that the detectives obviously spoke with Shanann's family prior to going to see Chris Watts, and I don't know if this is true or if this is just part of their interrogation techniques, where he says that the family, still loves Chris Watts. And he said, oh, I'm very surprised, and, it sounds like maybe even gets a little emotional and things of that nature. And the police were even really surprised that her family, Shanann's family was so supportive and didn't want the death penalty and things of that nature. But they wanted answers. They wanted details. And I think I said this in one of my earlier posts regarding the fact when the news came out that there was these videos coming, is that, this was closure. This is, for the family to figure it out. And like I said, you will have to decide for yourself whether you believe some, part, or all of Chris Watts' statements to the police. He's pled guilty. He's up there. Now, do I buy he's found religion and he is going to, live this great Christian life and he's going to help other people, and this was all done for a big plan? Who knows? Okay. I can tell you, I've had clients that as soon as they go to jail, they go to prison, they become very religious. It's nice for sentencing statements that they're going to change their lives and things of that nature. But when they get out the door, it's all gone and they're back to their old ways. So obviously he has a lifetime of sitting in this cell where he is now. Is he going to become this great Christian? I mean, what are you going to do to make yourself a better person? Don't kill your family. If you get... all the people that he's going to have contact with are already in prison, so they've either been convicted or pled guilty. So I'm not really sure what he is going to bring to the table, so to speak, for anybody in the future. So for those of you that are just joining us, I've noticed that a lot of people have just joined in. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. We are a YouTube channel that talks about legal issues. We started this channel because we got very frustrated as it relates to basically the news media not understanding or being able to explain what takes place when it comes to criminal cases. And so that's what we've tried to do, is provide a little more in-depth information onto cases, analysis, explain the process and the procedures. And thank you all, because fortunately this channel has grown rather quickly. We just went over 50,000 subscribers the other day, and so thank you all. It couldn't have happened without you. So if you like the channel, obviously, please continue to subscribe, like the videos, leave comments. We appreciate it. I do read them, and as I stated earlier, for those that have just joined us, I've been kind of out of pocket, so to speak, for the last 3 weeks, as I was in a double homicide trial in a smaller county in Colorado. And so I really just couldn't do this the way I wanted to, just given the logistics of it, and basically spending 16 to 18 hours every day working on that particular case. Excuse me. Now, if you'd like, you can also get the Crime Talk mug at the link below there at Teespring, and if you order one, they should have it to you in a couple of days. I personally have a couple of them, and I'm also going to I got a couple of those sweatshirts on the way. Have a super chat from Tina. Was there proof they had sex in Shanann's autopsy? I don't have the autopsy right in front of me. I can try to pull it up quickly, but my recollection is that there was no evidence that they could turn to confirm nor deny that. If I pull it up and I find that, I'll correct myself if I'm wrong, but I don't believe there was anything to indicate that. And even if an autopsy, if somebody had sex, there's no signs. No one's alleging if there's any signs of force, but even then doesn't necessarily mean much of anything if we had to talk about sex assault type of kits and things of that nature. But I really would like to know what your thoughts are as it relates to Chris Watts and his latest interview with the FBI, Colorado Bureau investigation, and the Frederick authorities. Do you believe him? Do you think he truly came clean? Do you think he's still holding back? Do you think that he is, still trying to put himself in a much better light than what he actually is? Like I said, how do you make yourself look much better after you kill your wife and 2 young children and an unborn child? I'm not sure you got a whole lot of places to go from there. It's just interesting to me that not only would the police do it, but why would he agree to that conversation? Other than he's probably lonely, he figures, what the hell have I got to lose? He actually talks like in that interview as whether like these people are his friends. Like, it's like they were there to convict him, and now he's kind of like some sort of psychological study for them. And it's just really interesting. Okay, let's see here. Roxby, super chat. Why the 3-month hold on the home? And what that question is relating to is that the house went into foreclosure. And obviously, foreclosure before the bank can have the public trustee sell the house. Notice has to be given, and there have to be, notice goes out to everybody. They have to decide how they're going to sell it. They set a date. That can be extended for many, many reasons. I don't know the exact reason yet, but I will pull the public record this week. It's a civil case, so you have to actually pay for it to get it, but we'll do that and have a better answer for you here probably by Monday. And that's one of the items we were going to talk about. Like I said, it's just a matter of getting back into the groove of things, but I wanted to reach out and do that. So it's a good question because, the foreclosure, obviously, these people had no money. They were bankrupt. The bank's going to sell the house, and that's going to be it. The question is, who buys it? That's going to be some interest of curiosity. I doubt they're going to scrape the house or anything like that. People die in homes all the time, and they clean them up and sell them. And here, there was no crime scene, blood splatter, or anything along those lines that would prevent it from being necessarily sold. So, so I don't know exactly, but I will get an answer for you. All right. So the rest of the interview that Watts, goes through with these detectives, like I said, it sounds like he thinks these people are his friends, and they're, obviously they're not. They were the ones trying to find out what happened to Shanann early on, and like I said, he crumbled so easily in that particular interview. It was rather amazing how quickly he crumbled. But this one coming back up there, he could have just walked out the door, said, I don't want to talk with you guys. But he almost seemed excited. Why they were there and started talking to him. And, when people are in custody for a long time, even for a short amount of time, just having that interaction with someone from the outside means a big deal. Now, a lot of people commented on his interviews over the course of the last couple of weeks since they've been up that, his memory fades. He doesn't know why. Can't really explain why he did the things that he did. And, some people think, he's obviously lying. He's doing this. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know. But what I can tell you is I've represented lots of people over the years. And whether it's been, they planned it for weeks, months, hours, seconds, and something happens where somebody gets killed, there is a moment afterwards where people, I think the reality that they have just killed somebody, unless it's kind of old hat to them. And I've had clients that have had those type of situations over the years where it's like, oh, yeah, this is what I did. I killed the guy and I robbed him and moved along. But the people that do it kind of for the first time, they have this kind of experience in my, I wouldn't say like an out-of-body experience because it's not that what they've described, but they're just kind of there. They're kind of going through the motions. And although they're doing things and certainly they're aware of it, they can't necessarily explain why it's happening. So, not trying to lend any excuse to Chris Watts, but I think that explains why he can say, yeah, I think I did that, or yeah, there's no reason for him not to admit to it at this point. It doesn't necessarily make him look bad. I mean, he says he takes, his dead wife's wedding ring off and places it on the nightstand. Okay, and he said, I was kind of hoping to make it look like she left. She left the wedding ring here. The divorce, there was talk about a divorce, and then she just left and took the kids. And so I guess what it comes down to is, are there things that don't make sense to the rest of us, but things that he did? Did he clearly come to his senses and say, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it look like she left. But then he leaves her purse, her phone, her, luggage, nothing's gone. That makes no sense. And that's why his, crime and his story for the cover-up basically failed so miserably. So, anyhow, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for watching Crime Talk. We appreciate it. Have a super chat here. Marilyn. In the Patrick Frazee case, does KK have to stay in Colorado? No. So the nurse, the one who has admitted in the Frazee case, who admitted to cleaning up and actually planning and plotting to kill Kelsey Barrett on a couple of occasions, but basically, a lack of a better term, chickened out. But then she goes on to clean up the mess, so to speak. She's pled guilty, and she got a smoking deal in that particular case. I think it shows why the DA needs her so much, just given the facts of the case thus far, that they really need somebody to say they were involved as a co-conspirator, as a complicitor, and kind of explain things that happened or did not happen. But once she's pled guilty, she does not need to stay in the state of Colorado. She can go back to Idaho. A couple things would have to happen. She would have to sign a waiver of extradition, which means that if she failed to show up for court, she was picked up in Idaho or wherever, she would not fight extradition back to the state of Colorado. That would be a condition of that. And she would have to get permission from her bondsman to leave the state, and they would have to provide what they call a consent of surety to do that. And so that's good. Now, as I'm looking here, scrolling by, it looks like we're not having any sound issues today. Fabulous. We have cracked the code. Yes, finally. Finally. Um, let's see, I'm watching some of the comments go by. Peter Grant, Frazee is going to get off. We don't know. We do not know. And depending on where that jury is set, who knows? It's going to be very, very interesting. Just did a trial, and I can't go into great detail about it, but I can tell you it was on the Western Slope. I love the state of Colorado, love the people in Colorado. It's interesting, but when you get into smaller jurisdictions like in Teller County, it's the jurors are very no nonsense. I can tell you the case that I had this past 3 weeks didn't end well for my client. Were people shocked by the verdict? Yes. Were they surprised given the state of the evidence? Yes. But the jury found him guilty. And obviously, I'm not going to criticize a juror's decision because they made it based upon what they had. But oftentimes they don't get the full picture, and so be it. That's what appellate courts are for, to remove themselves from the emotion of it. Jurors have to go back to the community. When this is the biggest thing that's happened in their county in a long time, it's on the front page. They have to, go back and answer the people. But that's what appellate courts are for, and they can do that. So, will he get off in, jurisdictions? I'd be curious to see where they keep it. It's in Teller County, small county. I'm sure everybody's heard about it. The question is, can they find 12 people who haven't heard anything about it? If not, they will have to have the change of venue. Now, that particular jurisdiction, the judge could move it, for example, to El Paso County, which would be a much larger jury pool. That's Colorado Springs. It's in the same judicial district, so he wouldn't have to do that. However, if the judge were also to grant a change of venue motion, and he said, I couldn't even keep it in my same judicial district, then it would go to the Colorado Supreme Court, and they would designate a county somewhere else in the state. So it'll be curious to see how that plays out in the future. And given the nature of the case, it'll be, they're gonna have to call in a lot of jurors. I can tell you in my case that we just did, small jurisdiction, we had to bring in 600 potential jurors and whittled that down to 12 jurors plus 2 alternates. So it'll take some time, but it'll be very interesting to see. Another super chat here. Miranda, do you know if the Patrick Frazee case will be televised? As of right now, the answer is I don't know. Each hearing, the press has to apply for, and the court has to grant a motion for expanded media coverage. And it depends on the case. The judicial directives that come from the Supreme Court here in Colorado says that certain hearings cannot be televised. The trial could potentially be televised. They couldn't show the jurors normally, and they would keep their identities secret, so there was no backlash or pressure or anything along those lines. But I'm sure the media would love to cover that case from start to finish if they could. We will simply just have to wait and see. So, all right. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. We've got a large number of live viewers today, and I appreciate that. Once again, for those who have just turned in, if you're new to it, my name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. I am an attorney of some almost 25 years that does primarily criminal defense work. And that's what we do. I've tried hundreds of cases, probably over 25 homicide cases in my lifetime, and so that is great. Thank you, Sally. Appreciate that super chat. And we started this channel out of really frustration, and it started with the Watts case here, the Chris Watts case here in Colorado, because I was hearing things from the news media, and I couldn't believe what they were saying. It was like, what are they don't know what the hell they're talking about. And so that's what I want to do is provide information to people about cases, about things that were going on, and explain the procedure, how things really worked in the court system versus that 20-second blip that the news media puts out. I can tell you the case that I just had this past week. You read what the newspaper reporter was sitting in there, sitting throughout the trial, what she said, and then sometimes you have to wonder, was she at the same trial that I was sitting at? Because that's not the way things happen at all. Do I think that they're trying to be necessarily one-sided? No, I think they just didn't understand what was going on. We had some very complex legal issues, and I don't think they understood how that fit into the big picture. But that's all right. We have to have, open courtrooms. We have to have, public trials and things of that nature. I would never not advocate for that ever. But if you're going to be there and you're going to report on, at least you can try to be as accurate as possible. And if you don't know what's going on, say you don't know, but you're going to try to figure it out. So that's it. So we also have, there's a lot of cases that are out there right now, and we will be following them here in the next couple of weeks. The John case down, the police officer who shot the CPA in the apartment complex, she's coming to trial in August, but there's going to be motions and hearings and things like that coming up. We've got the murders in Ohio where, a child custody dispute where one family basically killed another family. There's a lot of stuff going on out there. We did a video a couple of weeks ago regarding Ted Bundy. I know one of Ted Bundy's attorneys. He represented him, attorney by the name of Charles or Chuck Leidner, represented him in Aspen years ago when he was jumping out of Art. Thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it. When Ted Bundy was jumping out of the courthouse in Aspen, Colorado, Chuck was the guy. Chuck has agreed to come and have a conversation with us. I think it'll be interesting to see what his thoughts are on Ted Bundy. The other thing is there's been a lot of talk lately about the Michael Jackson documentary that came out about the two young children that spent a lot of time with him, and they're making allegations of sexual assault. And, obviously these people now want money. What involvement did their parents have? Did they know? Why would you let them hang out with Michael Jackson, based upon the previous allegations that were out there? I mean, those are all so interesting. Would I have let Michael Jackson watch my kids if I knew that there had been so many allegations where people had made statements? Oh, hell no. That would never, ever happen. But yet some people do because they get completely just engrossed by that celebrity status, I guess you could call it, and they're going to simply take that risk and say, "Oh, it'll never happen." And they think that they're going to possibly get something out of it. So we'll be talking about that in the next couple of days. Going to spend a lot of time just getting back up to speed, and this is going to be my focus here, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you tuning in, and don't forget, so a couple of things have taken place while I've been gone. If you go to Facebook, there's a Scott Reich Facebook fan page. There's also a Crime Talk Facebook page. Additionally, if you go to scottreich.com, we have a web page that has been built. You can also sign up there for an email. We'll be sending out information as it relates to cases that we're following, just interesting things in the news, and you can get those emails sent to you, but you just need to sign up. And so that's new. It also has a link to all the videos, podcasts, and everything that we've done here in the past. And so that's one way you can do that, as well as if you have a direct question, you can basically ask, and we will try to get back to you as quickly as possible to doing that. I've had lots of people over the last 6-7 months asking questions about cases in various states that I don't know anything about. But if you have a link or you have other information that I could take a look at that to get up to speed, if you'd like me to comment, I certainly would do that. No problem at all. And that's probably the best way to do it, because there's an email on there, and just shoot me an email, shoot me a question, and we'll answer it. So I appreciate everybody tuning in today. I do truly appreciate you watching. I appreciate you subscribing. I know that none of this would have been possible without you. So please like the channel, tell your friends, share it, subscribe, push that little notification bell so that you can get notifications of when we're going to go live, when new videos come out. And like I said, you can go to the Scott Reich fan page on Facebook. You can go to scottreich.com, which is our website, and always you can come to our YouTube page. So we're going to end it there. Also, if you do like the mugs, they're back in stock. You can pick those up by hitting the link there on Teespring as well. And basically have a wonderful day. Have a great weekend. And we will see you Monday with some new content. Have a great day.